Blessings to you all on this wintry, drizzling morning in Bodhipala Monastery. One of our teachers, Dhamma Mahabua, used to say, this wintry weather when it's drizzly, grey sky is the best weather for meditation. Because your mind, rather than thinking, going out and doing all these different things, will turn inwards and you can focus on your meditation. So sometimes the weather helps. So very nice to be here, meet you all again. We wanted to just put down a day of practice before the entering of the rain retreat, which starts next week. I won't be able to come then. Due to unforeseen circumstances, Ajahn Kalyano has had to go to our monastery in Melbourne. We did a swap over. He's gone to help organise one of our building projects there. So, nice thing about being a Buddhist monk, it's very easy to move from place to place. They call us the homeless ones. So when you're homeless, then it's easy just to pick up your bowl and travel to the other side of the country. You'll be back next week, but for today I'm here, leading the retreat. And it's a very good way, even just to spend one day, just doing a bit of meditation, reflecting on Dhamma. Just now we took refuge in Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. Buddha and Saranam Gacchami. Again, that's a very skillful way to begin your meditation and your day of meditation. You're just reminding yourself that the Buddha is your teacher. The Dhamma is the teachings that lead to liberation and the way out of suffering, stress. And the Sangha, those who have practiced following this path of Dhamma and realized the fruits. So they practice correctly, we say, correctly according to the Buddha's teachings and experience the correct results. The mind that is free from what we call the defilements, kilesa, all those mental states rooted in greed, anger, delusion, attachment, free themselves from those, and therefore they have a mind that is pure, liberated, peaceful. So we aspire to those qualities through our practice. Of course, the starting point when we come to meditate is maybe not yet liberated, maybe we feel very trapped or stuck in our thinking, in our lives. We may still have lots of stress and worries. So part of the purpose of this retreat is to give us a chance to understand ourselves better. The way the Buddha talked about a human being, he divided a human up into 5 groups of experience, what we call the 5 khandhas. The first of those is rupa, form. We have a physical form, a body. Then we have 4 mental khandhas, which are the mental aspects of our experience. So we have feeling, vedana, that's either pleasant feeling, sukha vedana, unpleasant or painful feeling, dukkha vedana, and then we also experience neutral feeling, adukkha sukha vedana, neither pleasant nor unpleasant. And then we have perception, how we remember things. Those can be good and bad, right or wrong, correct, incorrect, but it's just the aspect of memory and the way we remember is a very important part of our mental experience, the way we interpret things that we see and hear, and just thoughts that come up in the mind. Then we have sankhara, called mental formations, or thought formations, all the thinking, all the planning, all the doing that we do in life begins as a thought or an intention, intentional thought. And then vijnana is consciousness. So seeing, for example, is consciousness arising through our eyes. If you have healthy eyes, there's light and something to be seen, you can see consciousness or knowledge arise. So this is how the Buddha described a human being. There's a famous teaching the Buddha gave. He said, these 5 khandhas, or 5 groups, for the unenlightened person, the untrained mind, are a burden. Para, bhave, panchakhandha. And that's why we feel stress and suffering through our lives. Sometimes physical suffering, pain, discomfort. Sometimes mental suffering, worry, anger, fear, agitation. And these all are like a burden. So then people will say, well, who's carrying the burden? And the Buddha said, well, the person. Me, you, we're all carrying our burden of these 5 khandhas until we've seen them as impermanent and not self. And the kind of aim of our practice is to train our mind to look back at this body and mind, look back at ourselves and understand that these things are impermanent, they're not self, they don't have to be clung to or attached to as self. And when you have that realization, this is what we call insight, or wisdom, panya, or jnana, insight, vision into the true nature of things. And when you can see a thought is not self, a feeling is not self, the body is not self. So a big part of Buddhist meditation is investigating truth, looking more closely at your own experience. And all the different parts of the practice help with that. Why do we come to a monastery like this, a quiet place? A quiet place will help. Not too busy, not too much happening. You've got more time to observe yourself, go inwards. We take refuge in the Buddha Dhamma Sangha just to remind us of the teachings, which point to the truth, point us to look inwards and see the truth. We keep precepts. Like today, keeping 8 precepts, Atta Sila, just to make your day very simple. You don't have to worry about food in the afternoon, or entertainments, or dressing up, all these things that we might do, especially on a weekend. We just spend the day meditating, eat in the morning, dress simply, live simply, so we can watch our mind better. So the precepts help that. Listening to the Dhamma helps. And then practicing mindfulness, bringing up this quality of awareness, knowing yourself. This is the key to understanding what the Buddha was talking about. But of course, because our mind is not yet perfectly peaceful and clear, even receiving the instruction, practice mindfulness, can be problematic, because as soon as you're not mindful, you realize your mind is distracted, thinking you're lost in its thoughts. We often get disappointed, annoyed. We immediately sort of feel, oh, I can't meditate. And we may even undermine our own efforts in meditation. We say, oh, I can't do it. I haven't got the merit or the barami or the good qualities, and then kind of give up, get frustrated and give up. So the Buddha always said, be patient. Our teacher Ajahn Chah also said, be patient with your own mind as you meditate, because of course it will run away. You won't be perfectly mindful all the time. But we all have mindfulness, it's just we need to practice it more, develop it more. If we didn't have mindfulness, we wouldn't be able to sit like this. We wouldn't be able to sit peacefully, listening to what I say. You can't drive a car if you don't have any mindfulness. You can't get to the monastery. You can't even eat food if you're not mindful, because you've got to pay attention to the food you're eating and putting it in your mouth. So of course we have mindfulness already, it's not well developed. And it's often directed to just ordinary tasks like walking, eating, reading, typing, all the things we do in a day. We're not paying so much attention to ourselves, to the mind itself, our mind and body as they are. We miss that because our mindfulness tends to be going out towards outward things, external things. So this is why meditation is really useful. We're just training or improving our mindfulness to also be able to notice our own mind, what we're thinking, how we're feeling, how our body is, so that we can see the truth, know the truth. That's what the Buddha was pointing to. So he said it's nothing mysterious. It's not like Buddhism is teaching some mysterious truth that only a few people can know, or some special person will know, everyone else doesn't know and can't know. It's not like that at all. These 5 khandhas, our body and mind, everyone has them. The raw materials that you're learning from in meditation, you have already with you. As a human being, you're just learning about yourself. Nothing hidden or mysterious, but the fact that we miss it is simply we're not aware of ourselves. So it seems sometimes like the Dhamma is something mysterious, but it's simply we haven't practiced enough. We miss things, we don't see things or know things. When I was a young monk, we used to go and see a teacher who was a friend of Ajahn Chah. He was called Ajahn Buddhadasa. You may have heard his name, there's many books of his in English. And everyone would ask him about meditation, and they'd say, well, how much mindfulness do you need to meditate, to become enlightened? And he had a good sense of humour, and he'd say, actually, you only need as much mindfulness as it takes to tie your shoelace. Obviously, whoever was asking the question was wearing lace-up shoes. Can't have been a monk because we don't wear lace-up shoes. But the person asked the question, he said, when you tie your shoes, you have to watch your shoes, tie a bow in your shoelace for it to be successful. That much mindfulness you need. But then you have to keep developing it continuously. It's just like anything else. You tie your shoelace and then off you go and do something else, and you'll get lost in your thoughts and your moods, or get distracted straight away. Meditation is like that. Everyone can be mindful of one breath in, one breath out. But the important thing is to keep practicing it, keep bringing up that mindfulness. Which is why we're here in the monastery, it's quiet. We can do some sitting, some walking. You can be mindful when we're eating our food. Because you need to practice continuously for it to improve. Then you have a chance to see the truth about your own body and mind and understand better where the suffering comes from. When I was young, I used to think suffering comes from the sky. somewhere out there. And if anything went wrong in life, I used to sort of say, why is this happening? And you shake your fist, and you grit your teeth, and say, this shouldn't be happening, why? But that's not much good. It doesn't it doesn't bring you any understanding or knowledge. You're just displaying your frustration. Usually it'd be something like, in those days I'd play records before the advent of digital technology. We played records. So the record player was broke. You go, why did the record player break down? This shouldn't happen today of all days. Suffering is like that. When we're not investigating, not very mindful, not paying attention, we tend to attribute it often to the wrong place. So it's because of gods, or God, or the gods, or random, or my bad luck, it's in the stars, or got a bad horoscope today, so I'm having all my bad luck today. We're always looking for somebody or something to blame. But the Buddha said, don't do that. Try to turn your attention inwards and look at suffering itself. It's the first noble truth the Buddha taught. Be aware or know suffering as it is. Because once you're looking at your own suffering and you're trying to learn from it, it can teach you something. But to do that, you need to be mindful, you need to be patient, you need to be willing to look inwards, rather than just immediately blaming somebody or shaking your fists at the sky, or whatever else you do. The best thing would be just bring out the mindfulness, pay attention, look, and then you can learn from it. And many people find when they come on a meditation retreat, they sit like they're doing now, and then maybe sit a bit longer than they would normally, or they try the walking meditation, do that. They find that a lot of stress and suffering is immediately exposed as just negative thinking, sometimes just foolish thinking, getting caught up into a lot of reactions and thoughts about things that once you become more aware, straight away they drop away. They dissolve when you become more mindful, pay attention. And often you realize, sometimes I get really stressed in life. I don't need to be, because it's just me holding on or getting lost in some negative train of thought. As soon as you become a bit more mindful, as you're practicing this meditation, you realize, it's just thoughts, there's nothing much to it. Some suffering is more deep, it's more deeply ingrained. Maybe it's a habit of thinking that's really been there for a long time in your life, so that may take more work, more understanding. A lot of suffering is very superficial, and it's just thinking over and over again in a negative way, a certain way that makes you feel bad, feel unhappy, not peaceful. And only when you start practicing mindfulness do you realize that, and you let go. It disappears quite quick. So sometimes when you meditate, you're becoming more aware, it's sort of like stripping away layers of attachment, layers of stress. You start with the various outward superficial stuff first, and as mindfulness becomes stronger and more continuous, maybe you can look inwards and see the more deeply ingrained things that we attach to. But to practice mindfulness, you need a method, you need a technique. Ultimately, we just need to know the mind. But to get to that point, most people will need a technique. And there's many techniques people practice, but probably one of the most universal ones is what we call Anapanasati. Anapanasati is mindfulness of breathing. So it's using the breath, which everybody has as a way to bring up mindfulness, by paying attention or knowing the breath. You know, if we're all honest, every day we're breathing, every moment of every day you're breathing. Anyone who's not breathing is dead, wouldn't be here. You're breathing every moment of every day. That's what life is really. You're a living, breathing organism, a human being. And any life in this world, or recognizable life form, even a little bug or something, they have to breathe to live. So the Buddha was just giving us a very simple technique or method to practice mindfulness. Just using what we have already, the breath. So you don't need any special equipment or any special kind of thing from elsewhere. Just paying attention to your own your rhythm and the sensation and the feeling of your breath as a way to bring out mindfulness. So this is why we get you to sit still, sit quietly like this. As the posture begins, helps. You can sit still, you can sit on a chair or on the floor. You can sit still, and then you've got a chance to ideally close your eyes, but you don't have to. You can keep your eyes open. And bring attention to the feeling of the in-breath and the out-breath, which is there already, but we're now just making it the center of attention. And at first that's difficult or challenging because half the time, most of the time, our mind is making other things the center of attention. We talk, we look, we do things all the time. We're not noticing our breath. So this is developing a new habit, a new skill, a new kind of knowledge, paying attention to the in and out breath. So this is why you have to be patient, accept that it will take a bit of practice to improve this, your mindfulness of the breath, but it's doable. And remember, the Buddha began when he was 7 years old, so even the 7-year-old can do it, because everyone breathes, but it takes some practice. So you need the patience, you need the goodwill, the metta, the loving kindness, because you'll get frustrating sometimes, annoying. Different moods come up as you're trying to focus on the breath. You'll remember something that annoys you, or you may have a bit of pain in your leg. So you also need the goodwill to keep yourself relaxed, to see that it's a good thing you're doing. You know, just like parents bringing up a kid and trying to teach them all the different things that kids have to learn. They have to have the goodwill, the kindness to be willing to teach a young kid who doesn't yet know anything. Same with us when we do our mindfulness and breathing practice. You have to start from goodwill, have the patience, accept that it will take some time. If you have the good attitude, then when you start practicing, it helps. The actual technique itself is fairly straightforward. Ajahn Chah, my teacher, used to say, well, once you're sitting, you're still, turn your attention inwards to your body. Try and pick up the feeling of your breath at the tip of your nostrils. So take a deep breath maybe. Feel the air coming in through your nostrils. And then a second point down at your heart, the center of your chest. You'll notice that movement as your lungs fill. There's some sensation there. Very subtle, so you have to be very observant. And then down to your abdomen. That's a more coarse, more obvious movement. The abdomen rises with the in-breath. Especially if you take a deep in-breath, just to show yourself where that feeling is. Breathe in at the nose, notice the chest, notice the abdomen. So 3 points you begin with. And then with the out-breath, your abdomen falls, the chest deflates, the air comes out of your nose, your nostrils. And air from the body is warmer usually. Air from the outside is cooler. That's one thing you'll notice. What many people find is as they start noticing these 3 points, nose, chest, abdomen, chest, nose, they'll also notice other things. So they'll notice an itch somewhere, or achy leg, or they notice their heart beating, or some sensation somewhere around the body. It's very normal, and that can be distracting. Sometimes people say, "Oh, when I meditate, I can feel my heart beating. What's wrong?" There's nothing wrong. It's just normally you don't notice your heart beating, but now you're more silent, more quiet. Well, you'll notice maybe your heart. You'll notice itches, pains, aches, sensations. You know, if you become more and more aware, you may even notice totally neutral sensations. Parts of your body that don't feel in pain, they're not, there's no particular pleasure, but it's just a very kind of neutral feeling. Say like the feeling of clothing onto your skin, or the feeling of air onto your skin, or feelings around the body. You also notice the pressure as you're sitting down, the weight of your body on the ground, you'll notice that. So even though you're focusing on the breath, you start to notice other aspects of your body. And of course, the other main problem is you'll start thinking. You'll be with the breath, going to these 3 points for a few moments, and then your mind will start thinking about what you want to do later. You hear a sound, what's the sound? What am I going to do later? What happened yesterday? What happens tomorrow? All these distracting thoughts will come up. Because you're not used to watching the breath yet. Breath is fairly neutral, it's not very stimulating or exciting. So the mind will look for something that it's more interested in or more attaching to, good or bad. And it will take you away from the task of becoming mindful of the breath. So that's where you're practicing. Knowing the feeling of the in-breath and the out-breath, and letting go of the desire to think about all these other things. You have to be patient and put effort in. The Buddha's word is virya, which means like persistent effort or perseverance. Keep doing it, literally. You do it once, that's fine, but then your mind wanders away. You've got to do it again, and you have to keep bringing the mind back to the nose, chest, abdomen, chest, tip of the nose. These 3 points. Get used to bringing your attention to those 3 points and letting go of everything else. So this is already introducing the idea of letting go. That's part of mindfulness practice. In the beginning, you're just letting go by focusing on the breath. I mean, you're letting go of everything else. And of course, your mind doesn't want to let go. It's like a kid with a toy, his favorite toy. You try and pull the toy away because it's time to do something else, so they don't want to let go. And you've ever seen it. If the kid's really attached to the toy, mom will pull the toy away because the kid's got to eat or do something, and the kid's arms are around the toy and they'll be dragged as mom pulls them away. They'll got to hang on for dear life because they want to keep the toy. No, keep this. That's like your mind. When you're doing your breath meditation, your mind will stubbornly stick to some thought, some memory. It doesn't want to go back to the breath, it wants to keep thinking about that thing. Good or bad, happy or sad. There's a whole range of mental states, moods that the mind will latch onto and won't want to let go of. That's where you have to be very patient and keep working at it. But if you keep the good attitude, the goodwill, the metta, the friendliness to yourself in this situation, You can also reflect, well, practicing like this, improving your mindfulness is helping other people as well. So it's not a selfish action, it's going to improve your life, help you to be more mindful, that will help other people around you. So it's for them as well. But you keep your good attitude, your patience, and then you can work with this mind that wants to just get lost in its thoughts. Or the other one is fall asleep, especially on a Sunday morning, meditating when you could be in your warm bed sleeping. Your mind is going to be thinking of that and drifting off towards sleepiness as well. It's another obstacle, another challenge. So like with sleepiness, you have to counter it. So maybe open your eyes. If you're falling asleep, just open your eyes. Come back to the breathing, but with your eyes open for a while. Sit up straight. So the Buddha always said, when you meditate, try and sit up straight. That's one reason we have Buddha statues. In the time of the Buddha, there were no statues. Nowadays they are, but they're really aids to remind us what to do, remind us of the qualities of the Buddha. And one of them is the Buddha statue always sits up straight. I don't think, I've seen thousands of Buddha statues in my life. I've never seen a Buddha statue slouching. Never seen a Buddha statue falling asleep. So always straight, alert. Whether the Buddha standing, sitting, or even the Buddha lying down, the Buddha is still alert. But you can still practice mindfulness lying down. It's just more difficult because you tend to fall asleep quickly. So the Buddha said, sit up straight if you're sleepy, put effort into your posture, even open your eyes if it helps. Take a few deep breaths if you're falling asleep. And as you take the deep breaths, you return your awareness to the present moment. And then carry on. The same with a lot of anxiety, agitation. You may notice some particular problem keeps coming up as you're meditating. You keep thinking about some issue. You've got a health issue, some worry about your health. You've got worries about work, family, relationships, money. All kinds of things come up, and then maybe something that's just sticking in your mind. You keep thinking about it, keep thinking about it. So again, a good thing to do is take a few deep breaths. Normally you don't have to take deep breaths, just breathe normally, but if you're stuck in a certain way of thought, train of thought, and you can't let go, just take a few deep breaths and re-establish mindfulness. That can help. Or in the worst case, Ajahn Kalyano used to say, it says, your mind is really stubborn, it's determined to think about something, not be aware of the breath and just think about this thing, won't stop. He used to say, just hold your breath, stop breathing, as if you're underwater. Because that immediately brings attention back to the body, the mind, the present moment. And if you're holding your breath for a while, the next thought that will come up will not be that issue that's been bothering you. It will be, when am I going to breathe? You'll see your attachment, you want to breathe, and that will increase. The desire to breathe will come up stronger the longer you hold your breath. And this will help you cut off some other more mundane, ordinary thought about life that's bothering you. So you can use that as a simple thing. I mean, hold your breath for 1 minute, then you let go of whatever else has been bothering you. And then you come back to just normal breathing, and maybe you're now free from whatever it was bothering you. The other one he said all the time is just contemplate as you're breathing, and as things are coming up, distracting you, just observe and contemplate impermanence. We call anicca. Because all your thoughts, sensations in the body, feelings are anicca, they're impermanent, they come and go. And as you're practicing mindfulness of breathing, notice that. Notice how one thought comes, arises, passes away, and usually it's replaced by another thought, another issue. So it's like we just have a succession of little stories and thoughts that we're thinking. So it seems all like they're all joined together. It's just one continuous story in our mind, thinking about this and then that and then that. But as you become more mindful and you put your attention on the breathing, then you'll notice thoughts actually are distinct moments. They arise, they pass away, they arise, pass away. Change is going on all the time. You can notice that. You can even predict it. So say some issue has been bothering you. You keep thinking about it. Keep returning to that. Instead of watching the breath, you're thinking about this issue. Just ask yourself, or notice these thoughts are passing away. How long are they going to last? The next time the thought comes up, how long will this last? There may be an image with it, maybe just words, maybe just quite jumbled, garbled kind of thinking. There's all kinds of different mental states we have. But ask yourself, how long will this last? Even if it's a very strong emotion. It's not certain, it's not sure. And this reflection, not sure, just means it, in a few moments it won't be there, it'll be gone. Just as this morning till now, you got up, you have many thoughts go through your head. And where are they now? They just arise, they pass away. And as you become more mindful, you see that, you notice that. And that's giving you understanding or insight into your own mind. This doesn't last, this won't last. That can help you to put it down, let it go. You have to give yourself permission to let go while you're meditating. So you have to tell yourself, this is not the time to solve the world's problems. This is not the time to solve my problems about life. Because often people think that. They think, I'm going to solve all my problems in my meditation. And they just make themselves more distracted and mind things and worlds around. It's not peaceful, it's not mindful. Lost in the thinking again. So try not to do that. Try to say it's okay to let go of all this stuff. I don't need to plan things at this time. I'll do that another time. I don't need to think about these issues at this time. Whatever comes up, you accept it, but then let it go. So it's not like you're trying to force your mind not to have any thoughts. If something comes up, and it will. Just accept that, but then let it go, rather than clinging on developing and holding on to that thought. Just say, another thought, here comes another one, and let it go. Then another one, and let it go. Until the thoughts and the distractions and the different feelings that bother you start to subside, and you'll find your mind and your body get more still, more peaceful. But you have to practice that. Keep coming back to the breath. Let it go, and there may be periods where you're still very alert, very awake. You're knowing your breath, you're knowing your mind, your body in the present moment, but you're not getting lost in trains of thought. You just see them come up, disappear, they rise, cease, and you now have this more stable awareness, what we call mindfulness, sati. And that's a very important quality to develop. Again, Ajahn Chah used to say it's like this room, say you come into this room and imagine there's only one chair in this room. People come in all the time, there's only one chair and you're sitting on the chair. So mindfulness, well practiced, it's like that. You're sitting on this one chair. So people can come in, but then they walk around, there's nowhere for them to sit. So then they go out again. Because there's only one chair and you're sitting on it. That's your aim, is to make your mindfulness really strong, continuous, then whatever comes into the room, whatever comes into your mind, you just know it, but it won't stay, because you know it's temporary, it's impermanent. So these are some simple reflections on meditation. What we're doing today, getting to know ourselves better, practicing with patience, goodwill, metta, effort, virya. So now I'm going to stop talking for a little while and we'll try and do some, see how we go. And as I said, if you're falling asleep, open your eyes, sit up straight, try to put effort into your meditation and see how we go.